Hey guys, welcome to the Masters in Motion podcast. Join us as we jump into the world of CrossFit and celebrate the strength, resilience, and determination of Masters athletes. I'm Jason Grubb, and I am here with Rick Stevenson and Mr. Patrick Barber, who is kind enough to join us tonight. How are you, Pat?
I'm fantastic, man. Just relaxing, stoked to be on the podcast.
Thanks, man.
A true OG. I think certainly needs no introduction. If you're one of those that are fortunate enough to be watching, you recognize his face. Pat, thank you again for spending some time with us tonight. Go back with us and let us know, how many years have you been, when did you first discover CrossFit? Because when we say OG, we mean OG.
Yeah, I started in 2004. I was in high school. I was like 18 years old, and my old English teacher was Tony Budding, who is the original director of media for CrossFit, and my old pottery teacher in middle school was Nicole Carroll, who's now the director of training, or I think she's the director of culture right now. But so those were the founders, or they found it and brought it up to the high school that they were teaching at, and they made me do it because I was on the volleyball team, and that's why they brought it up there. And I've kind of been doing it ever since. Had the occasional hiatus here and there, but it's become my whole life.
That is fantastic. Okay, so you could honestly say maybe you were one of the first CrossFit teens.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely
teen programs.
Definitely one of the younger ones. There in that time, I think the Brand X guys were getting started pretty early on too. And then there was also, I was one of many in that class. So there was a bunch of teens there. My little brother was in it too, and he's a few years younger than me. So I was one of the younger ones, but definitely one of the first.
And you are still in Santa Cruz. That's correct. So
still in Santa Cruz. I've traveled away from Santa Cruz a few times, but I reside here permanently now.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you for spending some time. Certainly want to get into your journey, the path you've taken, and some thoughts going forward. But Jason,
for sure,
yeah, man. I've always wondered, as an OG. So we were just talking prior to the podcast that I met you almost 10 years ago when I snuck into the L2 at the time. I mean, to be fair, and you probably picked up on it immediately, although you may not remember, but I had about, you're supposed to have a certain amount of coaching experience, and I had about 3 months of coaching experience, maybe, running my gym. And, the L2 was coming through. I was like, there is just not many opportunities where I can just do this and not travel somewhere. So yeah. I was honest on my application, still got in, but I was so nervous, just went in there. And, my first experience with you is that you were like probably one of the strongest human beings I'd ever met at the time. And that didn't come out right. Of all time. Okay. Of all time.
He's going to quickly disconnect from this now.
Also, yeah. Oopsies. And then, we proceeded to, make the L2 experience, it's incredibly enjoyable. It's a nerve-wracking cert to get because there's a lot of hands-on. You as the participant have to coach in front of other people. You've got to run little small groups and teach people how to air squat, overhead squat, all the things. And everyone's nervous. And what you do as a feedback mechanism is first you laugh at everyone. Or this was it at the time. Like, I remember looking over, you're rolling on the ground, laughing, and then providing very effective feedback. But it was just such a nice experience. Like, okay, well, he laughed at that guy. He's totally going to laugh at me. And then you laugh at the next guy because we are all terrible at first. And then we get better, right? But, so I guess with that, tell us a bit about, I know you've shared this story a lot of times, but our audience maybe doesn't know how you go from a teenager OG, in 2004 to working for CrossFit and being part of the team there since, essentially the beginning. So tell us a little bit about that timeline. I find it absolutely fascinating.
Sure. Yeah, so I like I said, they brought it up, and I was just training and doing CrossFit. They brought it up to the school. I thought it was a fantastic experience. Like, I saw it as a game. Like, I hated working out, and this didn't feel like working out. This felt like playing. It felt like a competition, which it is. You know, like at its very heart, you know, you've got this idea that you can compete against yourself, or you can compete against other people. And that made it very fun for me and appealing for me. And there was nothing stale about it, and it made sense. It was like, if you're more capable, you move faster, you know, whereas I felt like the pursuit of normal gyms at the time was not, there was no fun in it. It was like, can I look a certain way by the activities that I'm doing? And I didn't appreciate that approach. And I never wanted to be in the gym bodybuilding. I was like, I don't care, man. Like, I want to be good at sport. And this felt like a sport. So I got into it then. And I did not know how to manage my own thresholds, and I didn't know how to move super well.
Right.
And I just threw down and nearly vomited every single time I trained, if not did vomit like every single time I trained. And it was just kind of, I spent a lot of time doing it. I graduated and I went off to college, and when I went to the weight room in college, they were like, what is this CrossFit stuff? And I was like, no, check it out. And they're like, you can't do that in here. And I was like, fine, whatever. And so then I moved back home to Santa Cruz after being at college I actually was only down in LA for just like 8 months, 9 months. I hated it. And started going to a local community college, went back to CrossFit Santa Cruz, and I couldn't really afford classes very much, but my old teachers were teaching there, and they said I could come and pay $5 a class. And I was like, in $5 a class, I'll do it. So I would take my tip money from working at the local restaurants and go in and take classes like 5 days a week. And at one point in time, I quit my job working room service, and I was driving by the gym, and I hadn't stopped by for a while. And Tony was there doing a really horrible workout. Specifically, he was doing a workout Karen Isabel combo put together. It was you've got, Karen with a 150 wall ball, and then Isabel being the 30 snatches. So I think it was 3 snatches, 10 wall ball for, was that 5 rounds, 15 rounds, whatever the math is there to make it was, and I was a small guy at the time, and 135 on the snatch was probably my like 1 rep max. And he's like, yeah, jump in with me. And so I just get dominated. Right. But he's like, I told him I'd quit my job, and he's like, hey, do you want to edit some video with us? And I was like, I have no idea how to edit video, but I'm happy to learn. And so he sat me down in front of an old MacBook with Final Cut 7, the demo version. And he's like, here's a blade tool. Here's like some other basic things. And he's like, this is a video of Annie doing a clean from the front, one from the side. Can you sync these 2 up and make a small clip? I spent like 10 hours making maybe a 17-second clip, and it was still bad. And, and at the end of that, I knew some basic editing skills. And so I would come over and I would edit some content that he had from seminars and lectures. And then he started asking me if I wanted to fly to the seminars and film the seminars because they needed somebody to hold the camera while he went off and taught. So like, sure. So he's like, we can't really pay you, but we can bring you to the seminars. I was like, sure, that sounds great. I'm like a single dude. It doesn't matter. So I like flew around the country and went and witnessed all these amazing seminars and did that over and over again until eventually I was like, guys, this is awesome stuff. Can I coach? And they're like, sure. So I started coaching a little bit at the local gym. And then the CrossFit Santa Cruz, the original one, split into many separate gyms. And so it went from CrossFit Santa Cruz being the only one to CrossFit North Santa Cruz, CrossFit Santa Cruz Central, CrossFit Santa Cruz, and CrossFit West Santa Cruz. And I went and stuck with CrossFit Santa Cruz, the original, which got given to Hollis and Danielle Malloy, along with Mally Amundsen. So Greg Amundsen, one of the original fire breathers, his wife at the time was Mally Amundsen. And they got the name. And so I went with them because they needed new coaches, and I started coaching. I opened up a 3:00 class and tried to fill it, and I started coaching there and slowly my way into more and more classes. I was still filming seminars. I got decent at coaching. I asked to be on staff. I did a trial by fire, took the old level 2, which now gives me my level 4 because I passed that back then. And Ended up working for seminar staff, started traveling around the country, started traveling around the world. The games came around in 2008, 2007.
Right.
But 2007, I wasn't competing. I was just like, I saw that they posted the flyer and I was like, nah, I'm good.
I'm not going to do that.
And
The
I was
flyer,
like, nah,
the
yeah,
flyers.
the single flyer in Santa Cruz of come compete. And I was like, hell no, I'm not going. What is this fitness festival baloney? So I didn't go. And then in 2008 was the first kind of like hyped up year where people had like games profiles. And I was in charge of building all the profiles and editing a bunch of content. And I was like, and that Savon, that was the year he decided to come and make the movie, which was Every Second Counts. And they were like,
oh yeah.
I was like, Tony, can I compete? And he's like, sure, man. You're not going to do super well, but you can compete. And I was like, thanks. And so Dave and Tony actually both were like, dude, you won't finish top 30. And I was like, I appreciate you guys for your support. And so I went and competed in 2008, ended up placing 4th that year. So I did better than they were expecting. And
There you go.
that started kind of my like competition career. Competed in 2008, 9, 10, 11, missed qualifying in 12 and 13, and then competed 2014 and 15 as teams. And in that time, I was also running gyms. I moved to New Zealand. I met my wife. I ran multiple companies. I worked for, again, Faster, the equipment company for years. Like I've kind of done it all while simultaneously teaching level 1s and level 2s. And then in 2015, I started the first affiliate programming company, which is called Warm Up and Workout, which you, Jason, were a member of for a while, which was awesome.
Sure
I got to stop by your gym and say hi and do that whole thing. But
loved it.
It was great. My wife's a brilliant woman. She wrote all that amazing stuff, and I just got to dance around in videos and help coaches. And then I've done the whole spectrum, and now we have 4 kids, 4 sons. I live in the mountains of Santa Cruz, and I work for best hour of their day, and I basically make affiliate ownership really profitable and fun and help coaches be better coaches. I know you said brief.
That's a heck of a career.
Yeah.
But
that's it. That's just brief. That was brief. I know there's a lot of details in there. You glossed over everything. Yeah. That's the Cliff's Notes version of the last, 20 years? Is that about where we're at, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's about 20 years now, man.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah, fair enough. So it's a huge history. Now, I have been a fan of yours, certainly since I met you doing my L2. And then, like you mentioned, when you guys released Warm Up and Work Out, I was like, that's a good idea. And I, immediately subscribed, and I was annoyed because I was like, this is such a good, whenever someone else has a good idea, I was jealous. But we love the programming as a gym and subscribed for a long time.
Yeah.
So I admired that move as well. And your ability to get in front of a camera, do demo movements. And I think you had a lot of outtakes. I remember you had, I think, a corner in your basement painted with Warm Up and Work Out because it was only this one spot where the camera was. I was imagining it was the cleanest spot in that entire room. The rest of the room had to be chaos, I imagine. But that spot was good. And, I kept following you, and what you would post online sort of changed over time. And over the last 9 years that I've been in orbit, you've shared a lot of personal work online. I've seen you make a lot of knives. You forged a lot of things. I've also seen you share a lot about being a father. I was wondering if you could share about where your passion in sharing with the public. We only share certain parts of our life, but why have you chosen to share that? And what's that about for you? I'm going to leave that as open-ended as that for now.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'm not a big fan of social media, and I've become more and more jaded towards the whole process for, over the years. And when it first came around, I remember I was running NorCal CrossFit, and we all, Paul Gomez from Progenics came in, and he's like, hey, there's this Instagram thing. You guys should set up accounts. I'm like, why? Like why would I set up an Instagram account? Like it wasn't a thing. I was like, I've got Facebook. Why would I need this? And I was like, what do you mean you just post pictures? You post pictures? Who gives a shit about your pictures? So like
Yep.
I set up this Instagram account and I posted some pictures, and then just because of all the attention in the CrossFit space, and we had this kind of hub of like athletes, people were interested, so they followed you, you know, and they
Yep.
like, and so for me, I was like, I didn't see it as anything other than like, this is a forward facing journal. It's more just like, this is what I'm doing in my life. I'll post this here, right?
Yeah.
The same way you would
To connect that way.
say, yeah, to the like Facebook. It was just like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. And over the years, you know, like I was sponsored for things, and sponsorships would be like, hey, can you post on here? And I'm like, sure, no problem. And I had always been in front of the camera doing demo work, and I just had a lot of time working with the camera. So, but I never really understood the game of social media, and I never really wanted to. Like, I never really wanted to like, let's play the game. Let's like, here's my niche. I'm going to dig into this and I'm going to make all these posts. I'm going to be controversial. Like I had a very brief foray into like actually having dialogue on social, like really early on in the YouTube days. Like when YouTube first came around, and I was like back when the 300 movie came out, you know, there was a 300 workout and some CrossFit Dallas, Texas, or CrossFit Dallas Central, which is Jeremy Teal's gym, which actually still exists.
Yep.
He posted this like 300 workout, and everybody in the video moved like garbage, and everybody in the video, it was just total bros. And I was like, you know, I came on thinking I was well intentioned. I was like, hey, I'm from CrossFit Santa Cruz. You guys need to go a little deeper in your push-ups. You need to blah, blah, blah. But my God, did I get just reamed, like just F you, who do you think you are? You blah, blah, blah. And so like over the years, like you try to like voice things online, and then people are just turd burglars. So very early on, I was like, I don't really care about this. Like, this doesn't matter to me. And I don't like it very much. I don't like how it feels. Like, I don't like this world, but I do like talking and sharing and disagreeing with people and having conversation happen. So my social media has always been, you know, it's just been my thoughts. It's just been like, you know, there's been times where for business, I like for warm up and workout, I had to really dig in to try to be relevant. And I hated those times. Like I hated the attempt and the necessity to like play this part or like to say these things and to have these conversations. Like it's not real life. It's really boring. I don't like it. And the only thing, and one of the, like, I can speak on CrossFit forever. Like you want to talk to me about CrossFit? Like for sure, man. Like I'm happy to go toe to toe. Like I'd happily go on Joe Rogan and debate him. I'd happily go chat with whoever and just be like, whatever, like, yeah, this is why we do this. This is this, this, and this. I'm very confident with that, but I don't feel the need to defend it. I don't feel the need to be like, put stuff out there and being like, fuck, oh yeah. Like the only reason I would do that would be because it would be positive for a business thing I was doing. But the two places that I do feel like I can contribute in the social media space is one is this idea of coaching development, of like setting an example for coaches. I think that when people see an example of what's possible as a coach, they're more likely to be better. And so when I started working with Best Hour of Their Day, like I'm organically filming a lot of this content for our behind the paywall, the knowledge. And so a lot of that's going to make it onto social media. But there's no like orchestrated social push because I don't want to do that. Right. And then the other part is like, I'm a father of 4 boys and I have no idea what I'm doing, but I really think being very intentional with fatherhood is super important. And like actually thinking about what we're doing and having conversations. And like I said, I'm like so jaded by social media, but I could either sit and complain about how terrible social media is, or I could post stuff that I believe in and have an open line of conversation with people who might disagree with me. And so not in an attempt to like be controversial, I want to have conversations on fatherhood. So I started a small account called the Fathers Guild, which was my like, this is a group of people who want to come together and here's my thoughts on fatherhood. I'd love to have a discussion. And that was my other avenue of like self-expression. And I see it like I see the other ones more of like as a creative, like an avenue of a forward-facing journal. And I don't know how to be anything other than me. So like, I don't really see a need to be, let me tell you a story. It's like more like, this is what I'm thinking about right now. Happy to have the conversation if anyone wants to have it.
And the things that I see these timestamps throughout the year, and the way you talk about it as a public facing journal, I clearly see that, and I remember moments in your timeline along the way. Like I remember when you decided you're going bald. I remember that conversation because you made it public, right? You're like, guys, look. I mean, I think you turned around, like, because your hair used to be just boom, just crazy. Like it was the Pat Barber, like crazy Santa Cruz guy hair, right? And then you decided, like, guys, I can't pretend anymore. I'm going bald. And then you shaved your head. Like that was the next thing. That stands out. Like this level of transparency and humility. Like I'm just going to show this to the world. Right. I'm not hiding anymore. Like I wasn't really hiding, but now it's just glaringly. So I'm just going to shave my head. I think about that. I think about, we just bought a house on 3 acres because we have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old boy, and we want to give them the experience of like, go chop down trees. Like we literally bought a DeWalt battery operated chainsaw, like a 20-volt chainsaw, 12-inch. Yeah. So my 10-year-old could go berserk. And he's created more firewood in the last like 3 days. Like we're good. In fact, he was really concerned the firewood was going to get rained on. And it is. So I ordered a tarp on Amazon. It's coming tomorrow so we can cover his firewood stash. My other son, my 6-year-old, built the fire pit. And we had a huge bonfire the other night because we have land and we can do that. And I'll tell you that you planted that seed for me because I watched what you've shared with the public about living on some land in Santa Cruz, and you're constantly renovating and building things and and doing adventurous things with your boys. And that inspired me to settle down after traveling in an RV for 2 years, which I know you have some experience with that too. But yeah, we were like, let's find a place, let's get land and let our boys be boys. And so just wanted to share that feedback with you, that you've influenced me along the way and given me the ability to be like, okay, yeah, let's let our boys go out there and do dangerous things. That's what that's awesome. They're kind of built to do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's scary. I'm like, dude, Henry, don't chop off your leg, bro. Just chainsaws are dangerous. He's also, not only we have a chainsaw, we also bought a 4-pound axe so that he can chop the wood, which he also does. And
absolutely, sure your little brother's not nowhere around.
No, all I was gonna say is people have said similar things. Like I appreciate like you being vulnerable on here, and the truth is like I don't feel it's very vulnerable. Like I if I had something to hide, like I would hide it, but I don't really. Like this for me. And what's funny to me too is my life is significantly more interesting than the stuff I share on social media. Like my like the nuance of my life is really profound. Like I am fascinated, and just every day, like I show maybe 1/100th of the projects that I'm doing. Like it's just like, I admire someone like you who can like really dig in and is making this push at filming what they're doing and getting after it. And like that social, like I think if I had the psychological capacity to do so, I'd probably share like that. I just can't be effed, like I'm like, and I think I'm like, I genuinely think I'm 100 times more interesting than I've ever put out there. Like, and people are like, wow, you let him do this. I'm like, wow. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the thousands of things, but like, I mean, I'm not gonna sit around and film and edit video the same way. I mean, like, look at this gym. Like, look at how nice this gym is. It's silly nice. I film nothing in here, like nothing for like, I've set up all these lights. I'm doing, it's all just like for myself. But I don't know. I want to be clear that I don't dislike people who do it. It's just like, for me,
sure.
Like I admire someone like you who's getting after it and like putting stuff out there. And like, I think it'd be really fun to do sometime, but I don't have the work ethic to do it yet. It's not made its way into my, even this Father's Guild thing, like that I've had some limited success in it. Like I've had a bunch of posts go relatively viral recently, and it's got this huge following from, you know, what I wasn't expecting, and it's constantly growing. But I'm like, I don't want to, like, I haven't posted in a week because I don't feel like it. And I don't want to, like, I want it to be real if I'm gonna, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a Google Calendar with all of your posting obligations on it?
No,
man.
I don't.
Let's pull it together.
But that's also why I don't get a nice sauna sent my way. And
this is true. This is true. There's things. There's trade-offs. And honestly, we talk about that, like, work-life balance trade-off, because that is part of my work.
It is.
And it is what it is. You know, doing a podcast on a Tuesday night is part of what we do. You know, even if I'm building a sauna until 6:59 p.m. and I run inside because we got to get going, things happen. Rick,
yes,
we've been having this dialogue here, man. I want to give you some breathing room here.
Pat, following up on what you said, how has because you're just out there and, you know, not hiding anything, but just doing what you think feels right, how has that feedback been? Given that kind of I don't want to call it a wall, but that maybe dislike for the route of social media, or maybe the way it's going, has the feedback, because you've said, hey, I'm being honest, transparent, has that?
Yeah. I mean, it's overwhelmingly positive. It's overwhelmingly positive. Like, in terms of the people who are like, there's definitely, especially when something goes viral, like, I've had a few posts go viral, you'll get negative idiots, right? And
well,
you're like,
that's the landscape, I think. Yeah.
That's the landscape, right? And so I'm not deeply offended by somebody who makes a comment on my public post and says I'm a terrible person, because it's like, that's clearly you hurting more than it's me hurting. But it is at times slightly exhausting to, like, go through stuff and be like, okay, like, for that moment of that acute moment of reading a post where someone's telling me my wife's crazy, and I'm like, huh? Like, and I have to, like, think about it for a second and be like, my wife's crazy. Is my wife crazy? No, this person's crazy. Like, and then you move on. So, but beyond that, it's like, the only reason I keep doing it is because of the positive feedback I get. I like what Jason said, like what he just said there, of like, I inspired, like, through some of my very limited posts I do on my house, like, he saw it and was like, you know what? I think I can do that. And my boys can go adventure. And, like, I think his boys and his life is going to be so much better because of that. And if something I did caused that, that's awesome. Like, I'm not like, he had to have the, like, cojones to actually go do it. But, like, I've had thousands of people tell me that. I'm not trying to be inspirational. Like, I'm not going out there and being like, let me be inspirational. It's like,
that's what I meant.
Sharing my life.
You. Right. Yeah. It's you being out there.
But that's, yeah. And that's fascinating to me with, like, I don't get me wrong. I love hearing that. Like, selfishly, like, there's a huge ego stroking when someone's like, you really inspired me to do something really cool. And I'm like, that's freaking awesome. I kind of inspired you, you know? But I think with the Fathers Guild stuff, that's where I find it really, really fun. Is because like the hundreds of comments I've had from fathers being like, thank you so much for just stating this in a way that I could hear it. And my relationship with my son is so different these past 3 weeks because of this thing that I'm trying that you tried too. And I never want to be on that thing being like, you should do this, you should do this. It's more like, here's what I'm trying and here's the results. But I've had literally hundreds of direct messages of fathers just being like, I'm having such a better time and I'm in the same boat as you. And so that's been really cool.
Bro, that's amazing. And I have a whiteboard in front of my computer. It's literally, I take all my notes on just a little whiteboard, and I have all kinds of things to do based on this conversation already.
Yes.
Slightly shifting gears to the best hour of your day, and your work that you do there. Wanted to get your thoughts and opinion, maybe as from an affiliate side of things. I feel like this is a giant orbit, so we can always circle back on it in any direction here. But we have the open quarterfinals, semifinals coming up. And I start to think about the gym that I'm going to be doing the open quarterfinals and semifinals at, and, you know, inviting athletes to come join me during quarterfinals and semifinals. What what is that like for the affiliate owners, man? And what are ways that affiliate owners can make the open is something we've traditionally had, maybe 3 nights or 3 weeks in a row of Friday Night Lights. When I had my gym, we loved it. I loved it. And so I'm pretty sure my gym lovers.
You just nailed it. You just nailed it. What you just said.
Yeah.
We loved it. I mean, I loved it. You loved it, which made everybody else love it. And I think that's the reality, because it can be detrimental if you're half-heartedly going after it and you prioritize all the top competitors and you don't help others out and blah blah blah. Or it can be incredibly beneficial as a big community draw, and it requires the passion from the person who's running it. And I think that it's a missed opportunity if you don't dig in and just go like, this is a big fun party. Let's just enjoy the heck out of it. And even if you've got, so like I've always run gyms that had top level competitors and other people. And it was like the other people loved it 10 times more than the top level competitors. And the way that you do that is by not necessarily prioritizing those top level competitors, but highlighting them and allowing them to support the community and having them come in and judge for normal people and like do these other things after their heats. And like to me, that's what you can make it so community oriented. So I think it's a thorn in some people's sides because of the way they view the scenario of like what it is, and they don't really like it. So, but it can be extremely beneficial to affiliates if they buy into the larger process and they don't be like, oh, but it's $20. It's like, fuck, man. Like, wait, then don't do it if you don't want to. Like, you don't. It's $20. Just it's totally not mandatory. I just there's people in life who are just downers and they weird me out. But it's like, you don't need to be that. It can be really, really fun. And I don't know, like I haven't been into competing like in a long time. And I love the open. It's just fun. Like when you go there, like, and it hurts so bad. Like cause you
bad.
Just never gets easy. Bad. And it never gets easy, but the whole, like everyone's drinking beers afterwards or they're having the potluck or whatever it is. And it's like, you make a spectacle of it. You don't overdo it. It's not like 5 days of stuff for every workout. It's like Friday Night Lights, call it there. If someone wants to redo on Sunday, we'll have coaches at open gym, move on, you know? And I think another big thing that we were talking about on our group calls recently was just like, if you want to be judged, you need to have passed the judge's course. So it's like, you can't come in expecting to be judged if you yourself aren't willing to reciprocate that back and forth. Correct. And I think that's a big culture thing too, is just make sure that there's buy-in from both sides.
I've heard feedback about this year's judging course
already.
Actually, that it's much, much easier than previous years, which is so good. In previous years, you get stuck in previous years at that like 17, 18,
how many
19,
double unders on?
I don't even know. Was that?
I have to watch.
You get stuck on the last one.
Double unders over and over and over.
It's not. It's easier. So I'm sure we're still covering the bases, but we're not having that little aggravation at the end. That's what I'm told. So I'm excited about that.
I did hear on maybe another podcast, Boz made some mentions of some refinements to that, I believe, and I think from some of the feedback that they heard. So kudos to HQ for listening to the community and maybe making. But I still have to do it.
I always do a judges. If I go through the judges course, I'm going through it with someone else. There's 2 of us in the room, so that we're like double check. Hey, what'd you get? You got 9? I got 9. Let's see. And then whatever, we do that whole thing.
Call me next week.
The other question I have, Pat. This year we have quarterfinals and a little bit longer time frame. We have a Wednesday through a Sunday night for quarterfinals. 25% of athletes get to go into quarterfinals. Individuals and age groups all go together at the same time for quarterfinals. This is the first time we've had any opportunity like this from an affiliate standpoint. What is some advice? What are your thoughts or action items around that? Again, historically, it's been like individual quarterfinals one weekend, teen and adapt or teen and masters another weekend, whatever. It's been 3 or 4 weekends of that. Now it's one weekend. So consolidated, but it's still kind of a big thorn in the side or opportunity. But how can affiliates do their best with that for the overall community and for those top level competitors? What's some advice there?
I think that the biggest thing is make sure business as normal is still happening, right? So like you're not drastically changing anyone's life, but then you on top of that have this extra opportunity for a big community gathering and just make it kind of special. And the fact that it is a single weekend makes it a lot easier to do so. So I think it's kind of a best of all worlds for that sort of deal. There might be a bit of a headache in the sense that there's some logistical stuff with making it all happen. But in all honesty, those are not going to be the hugest numbers of people at those on that way. It's not going to be like everyone from your gym goes and does it. It's going to be like a very select few, because 25%, that's a lot, but it's not. It's not going to be 25% of everyone's gym. It's going to be
it's going to be 25%
of everyone's gym. You know,
yes, It's not the noon class moms, right?
No.
And which is one of the best classes. But okay, I agree. I think I'm excited that it's all together. Like, it's not segmented anymore. So all together, I think it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. I'm obviously excited for the season, which is coming super fast.
Yeah, you going to win again or what?
Yeah, I'm going to do my best. I'm getting old.
He's
old in my category.
He's at the upper end of the age category now.
Okay, so what age category are you in again?
I'm 45 to 49, and I'm 48 this year, 49 next year, and then I bump up to 50, which is like a life reset. It's awesome. I mean, the best part of being a master's athlete, bro, is when you hit these thresholds, you age up. Like, you upgrade. Like, I can't wait to be 50. Yeah. I mean, you're almost 40. You're getting close on 40 here, man.
I am.
It's the opportunity. It's time.
But here's the deal: is I was just thinking about this before we hopped on. Like, I don't have any desire to compete anymore. Like, I did what I wanted to do. You know, like my whole life was competition. Like I know your story is a little different. You know, like where you've come from, and like this is your like this is you doing you. Like, this is amazing, and I love your story, and I think that. But my story is like I did my thing. Like I did it young. Like I won workouts at the CrossFit Games. I placed as high as 4th, as high as 7th on ESPN. Like, I've done these things, and I'm like, I don't really care. I don't need to, like, my focus is so different. My life, I've got 4 sons. One's a 1-year-old, and the oldest is a 10-year-old. And I'm like, once they leave, maybe I'll devote that time, but I get my competitive nature out in, I play a lot of volleyball, like a lot of beach volleyball. So I go and play in the CBVA, which is the California Beach Volleyball Association. I try to get ranked there, and I try to get better. And it's, granted I'm only 5'7", so it's not the greatest sport for me to have attacked, but CrossFit's a little bit more ideal for someone of my stature. But just the thing with CrossFit is for me, I got so good that there was no fun in the actual act of CrossFitting anymore. Like, because I wasn't trying to improve my efficiency in a snatch or a clean or a jerk or a muscle up. Like, I was one of the best in the world at moving. Like, I was very efficient. So I was not learning anymore. There was nothing new. Like, the funnest part for me would have been like obstacle courses or blah, blah, blah. Like, the only way for me to be better on the top level was to hurt more, to spend more time in pain, to spend more time really turning the thumb screws and getting the capacity that these guys like Rich and Matt have. So that game is no longer, or wasn't fun for me for the last, I'd say 8 years. But as I age, I am getting less proficient at my movement because I'm not practicing it as much. So I could see there'd be a time where I would like come back in and be like, oh, I've got all these skills that I need to get back. Refine. And would come back, and that would be fun again because, and I might sound arrogant as I say this, but I was too good at moving. And so the only thing I could get better at was pain. And I didn't want, I was done. Yes. I was done being in pain.
Why hurt more?
I can understand that. I can relate to that, and I can understand that. I've got proficiency in most things, not all of them, but it is like, how much pain do I want to do? And I'm still happy with the pain. I'm still happy.
Great.
And the rewards, the feedback loop is good. I'm all in. But the magic about being a master's athlete is that your runway is long, man. You've got the next 30 years as an opportunity if you want.
Right.
I know.
But you still train. You still train. You still work out at home. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and see, so that's something where Jason and I didn't start out doing this as young as you did, and didn't have that success early on. And so this time frame, given where we are in life with our families and work obligations, has allowed us to kind of craft a competitive track now that we didn't have back then. And so, that's flipping it around. You're taking time. You're doing what you want to do, what makes you feel right, and what you have time to do. But as Jason said, don't give that up if you don't want to.
Oh, I won't. I won't give it up completely. Like, that's the thing is like, what's fascinating is how much of this stuff stays. Like, I'll have years where I'm doing like 2 workouts a week, right? I mean, I'm still active and doing other stuff, but like, I'll go into gyms and still be fitter than everyone. And I'm like, like I've spent like 6 years, 7 years, like barely training. And it's just like, it's really powerful stuff. And like the capacity that we get to, and when we get there, it's really hard for it to just disappear. So I'm not against like going back. What I will tell you, I really do enjoy, Jason, is I really enjoy traveling and dropping into gyms, and people have no idea who I am. Like literally no idea, which is great.
Oh my gosh.
Like, but I love it. Like, because I can just be me. Like I can come in and I can chat with them, and they're like, have you done CrossFit before? I'm like, yeah, a little. I've done some in the past.
Yes.
And then we'll do a session and we'll lift, and they're like, you move pretty well. I'm like, yeah, I've done it for a few years, and it's just fun, man. Like I love the community, and it feels like Undercover Boss or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it is
the way that the community has changed, and now there's just such a longevity from really when it was introduced to where we are now. It's a very small subset of folks that have an idea of who you are or where you came from or the origin of it. So play that game, I guess, as long as you can.
I love it. I love it. It's so fun.
That I was in South Dakota or something like a year and a half ago, and it was after the games, headed back to Colorado, and I worked out in Sioux Falls, wherever that's at. Is it Iowa? Sioux Falls, Iowa. So I went to a gym.
Dakota.
South Dakota. Yeah, I don't even know. It was just, there's so many places we visited. And I did a workout with class, and it was really fun. Wall balls and handstand walks. And I was like, they're giving me a layup here. And I just went in undercover. It was awesome. Yeah. And I went back the next day because I wanted to do another class. It was a great gym. And like 4 guys came up and like, okay, so like we know who you are now. Like,
but isn't
the
it
jig
fun?
is up. Like we know.
But isn't it fun?
It's so much
like
fun.
That first day, they're like, "What the hell? Like what the hell?"
Totally.
Like it's just
where this alien come from?
What is this guy?
What I like too is like my strength to weight ratio is a pretty funny one because I'm a small guy, but I've always had good strength. Like that's like you said, like I even younger, it was just something I was good at. Yeah. So like I'll go in, and even though I haven't lifted in a long time, like I'll drop into a gym, and for some reason the strongest dude never has a partner. And I'll always be like, hey, I'll pair up with you. And, for like these lifting sessions, and they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, no worries. I'll stay light though. And he's like, well, I'm going up to this. Well, yeah, I'll go up to that too, and then they're like, but I thought you said you're staying light. I'm like, well, it's light relative, like, and so it's
totally,
it's so fun.
It's the best. It's the best.
Let me,
well, we,
oh, go ahead.
I
was going to say,
okay, I'll go. This is how we go. I'll take it. And then we'll just maybe 2 more questions, Pat, and then your time is sensitive. We want to let you go. I wanted to ask you about as you're being an example for your boys on the fitness side of things. What are some things that you do? Do your boys, your older boys, not your 1-year-old, do they CrossFit? Do they train? Do they? I know they surf. I know they swim and surf, right? I don't know, but what do you do to keep them very active? If you do that, or do they just do fun things themselves?
Yeah, I mean, so I never wanted them to be like, you got to come and do these things for me. Like it's more just we do it and we live it, and then they emulate it, right? So we just kick them outside, and they're outside for like 10, 11 hours a day. So like they don't get to come inside. Like they're like, I'm bored. I'm like, yeah, good. Find a tree, climb it. And so like that's a lot of how they live. But as far as the working out goes, like my wife and I try to work out like once a day, and oftentimes they'll come into the gym and train with us. And on the rare occasion when I feel like they're being turds, I'll be like, hey, the two older ones, I'm like, you're coming in, you're training, and they get way into it. But by no means is it something that I think that they have to do. They play sport, they swim, they're very active, and they definitely, some enjoy it more and some enjoy it less. In fact, the 1-year-old, he's in here all the time. So like the 1-year-old and the 3-year-old throw down a lot. So it's great.
They like that.
Nice.
I was going to say, rewind it back here a little bit on that undercover boss idea, but since you have so much experience going back to Aromas or Carson, what were some of your best memories from those early years? Because you were living it and in it then, and did you ever think it would turn into, the media spectacle that it is now? I mean,
no.
Year 2 out at the ranch,
Yeah. No.
Just
you never. I mean, but it always felt big though. It always felt bigger than it should
when
be.
You were in it.
Like every year when you're in it, you were like, whoa, look at all these people here. This is amazing. And then the next year, like, look at all these people here. And then the next year, like, there's like 10 times the amount of people here. And it's like, so it always felt huge.
That's what Dave said. We need to move this. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. and I think some of my favorite memories were just like, in terms of competition, I would say I have a number, like a handful of moments, but there's just been, I'm a good finisher. Like I know how to play a game throughout a workout and then like finish really strong in the workout. And I've had a few large finishes that were like momentous. Ones where I would just end a workout and beat like the entire competition and was just like, oh yeah, that was unexpected. I had one of those I had 2 of those in the 2011 games in Carson. One where I beat Chris Spieler in this sled push workout that he was just hosing me on. And then at the very last minute, I pushed my sled past him and beat him.
Was that where he was pushing with his head, with his forehead?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
He was pushing with his forehead, and I was on the I was on the far lane, and I came in and was like and grabbed it and just pushed it past him and hit the wall and was like, like, and so that was one that I loved. And then the other one that same year. That year I had a lot of finishes like that. I had one at the regionals. I was doing Amanda versus it was Amanda versus this other top competitor there, and we were going rep for rep, and he was ahead of me just slightly going into the final set of snatches, and he's snatching and he's going and he tries to touch and go one, and I watch him miss, and I was like, oh,
the door is open.
And I just make mine, and I just took it and just ran with it, and then just stepped across and was like, woo, like I just beat him. So that one was really fun. And then I think the all-time favorite was I did one where I pulled the sled across the stadium, and it was the end of that chipper. That was 3 separate workouts.
Sure.
But they were all the same workout, and it's how far you could go through and different time frames. And I made it all the way through, and I was like I was second getting to the sled, and Jason Kalipa had got there way earlier. But the way the sled worked is the sled was across the entire tennis stadium, and it was really heavy, and it was on a rope. And when you initially pulled it, all it did was take tension out of the rope. So your initial like pulls, like you got it there and you try to pull and it would move like 4 inches. Yeah. Like it wasn't moving because it was just stretching the rope. And so we would like lean up and then fall over and then lean up and then fall over. And the sled's like, and it's like barely moving across the floor. You can't break tension. You can't break friction. Right. So I was doing that. And I was falling over, and Jason was halfway across the stadium already. And I'm sitting there just hemorrhaging after this gnarly workout. And on one of my falls, I like went hand over hand for a second. And as I was falling, it broke tension, and it came like two pulls. And I was like, oh, and I like stood up. Ooh, and I fell over. And as I was falling, I pulled myself upright and then just started going. And the whole thing was moving. And you're watching Jason, who's like twice my size, fall over. And he's like looking over at me. And I'm just going hand over hand on this sled. And in my head, I'm like, just don't stop, dude. Just don't stop. And the whole crowd, like 9,000 people, just start like raising up because they see me starting to pass Jason. I felt the whole energy in the room. Yeah. And I just pass him, and I just pass Jason, and he's just sitting there. And then I just pulled it across the thing and put my hands up. And it was like that moment was easily the best feeling because I watched like 9,000 people were just like, dude, that was awesome.
Screaming
And
for it.
I felt it was awesome. So I had some very fond memories.
I think the tape on the floor would come up and get stuck too, or something like that. It's
so
something that's like that. Again, think of how
just,
much it's changed. Yeah, gotta love the way Dave
so
put
much.
together an event. That was a
Yep.
good memories. And then not having, I'd like to hear the debate when you have somebody that's competed at Carson versus Madison, and say tennis stadium versus the Coliseum. But the ones who competed out there in Carson, I think, will, to a person, to a male and a female, always say tennis stadium was electric.
Well, tennis stadium was cool because
And it
it had that like outside feel.
Yep.
It was like under the lights sort of feel. Whereas anytime you're working out in a stadium, like an indoor stadium, it's cool, but it
It's
doesn't
not that
feel the same.
Yeah.
Like it's like, especially in the LA, it was always really hot during the day, and then at night it would cool off, and you'd get this like under the lights sort of deal. It had a really magical vibe to it, you know? So I don't know. I never did I've competed in Coliseums, and I always felt it felt hollow. But I've never done the one in Madison. I'm sure it's very fun in Madison too. I've watched it, but I never competed.
Tennis stadiums have a weird viewing angle. So it's much more vertical as well.
Yeah.
So they are really on top of you there, which is
right.
It's just amazing. So
I was able to travel out there.
Who knows? Maybe the
times,
Masters games will be there in 10 years.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Thank you.
Well, Pat,
did you see that? Did you see that they're doing the tennis stadium? They're doing the West Coast Classic at the Home Depot Tennis Stadium.
Yes.
I did see that. That is awesome. That is really fun.
I thought it was cool too. I was like, I'll come out of retirement for that.
I thought you might. Yeah, I was going to ask. Like,
I'll go watch that.
There's a few things that'll bring you out, and yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on, for your time. I think Rick and I are both big fans of you, and excited to see where you continue to go in your long career in this world of CrossFit, dude. So, thanks for coming on. Thanks for everything you share online, man. And we appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me on, and genuinely, I'm stoked with how far you guys have come. So good job.
Thanks for tuning in to the Masters in Motion podcast. We'd be so grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us reach more listeners and grow our Masters community. Until next time, get bolder, not older.